excited during a football match? Do you jump into the air before Osimhen heads the ball or kick your neighbor before Lookman tries to score? Do you shout and scream at the top of your voice when Trust-Ekong stops an attacker or dive ahead of a daring save by Nwabali? Are you quick in throwing your hands up in the air when the referee makes an offside call against Chukwueze, or scream when beloved non-playing Captain Ahmed Musa gesticulates from the sidelines? Then watch it. Doctors say you could be at risk, and it is true. Sadly, Nigeria has lost at least 4 people since Africa Cup of Nations AFCON started in Cote d'Ivoire. Do not say it cannot be you. Former House of Reps member Dr. Cairo Ojobo, Cote d'Ivoire-based Nigerian businessman Osondo Nwoye, Deputy Bossa, Kwara State University, Malete, Ayuba Abdullahi, an NYSC member serving in Adamawa State, simply identified as Samuel, were among those who lost their lives during the tension-soaked semi-final match between the Super Eagles of Nigeria and Bafana Bafana of South Africa. They probably all looked hale and hearty even as the match progressed, but they died suddenly, throwing their families into mourning and the nation in deep anguish. What happened? We asked the expert, first Dr. Onye Achilihu, an Abuja-based United States-trained cardiovascular specialist.
It is not unusual for people to die in that environment because there are certain conditions that affect the heart, particularly the electrical part, that causes some disorder in the electrical conduction of the heart that are brought about by certain triggers such as emotions, stressors like exercise, swimming, loud noises. They can trigger certain kind of electrical disorder that is known. Sometimes that may be the first manifestation of death in that individual, but we know that these things can be hidden, and then they are triggered by certain events, such as emotions like you just described. Of course, what is going on in Cote d'Ivoire is an emotional, highly charged emotional state, a state where there is hyperadrenalism. A lot of adrenaline is being expressed, and we know that those things can be a trigger for certain heart conditions, and they can lead to sudden death.
Head of Trauma and Emergency Disaster Response Division in the Hospital Services Department in the Federal Ministry of Health Headquarters in Abuja, Dr. Kamil Sharitire, breaks it down further.
And happiness to most Nigerians. However, in the midst of this, the health of the heart is a very critical factor. Some of us, especially those that are above 40, you have hypertension, you have one background, heart disease, that are either diagnosed or undiagnosed, and some may have even suffered shock in the past as a result of maybe a bad news being broken to them either on phone or in the presence of the person that delivered the news, and they just faint. So all these are as a result of some physiological changes that actually happen in the system. Usually when we are excited, there's this thing we call adrenaline that pumps in the system. It makes the system to be excited. Blood flow to the brain, if you are watching football, to your face, to the eyes, is increased. And this is where the condition of their heart comes in. There are some people that until they start exercises, they will not know that they don't have the capacity to climb up to 7th floor on their own until the time they will do it for the first time that they will realize. So this kind of situation plays out when we are in the middle of a tension-soaked activity such as a football game. I know what happened where I was watching the football when our African Footballer of the Year scored a second goal. It was disallowed, and immediately we were told we've considered a penalty previously. Some people couldn't even bear that. And this is where this issue of adrenaline pumping in the system and the anxiety and in the system, in your body system, can be so much that it can elicit what we call a vagal shock. There is a very long nerve from the brain down to the tummy that we call the vagal nerve. That there is extreme excitement or shock in the system, it can temporarily stop every vital function in the body, temporarily. But why that happens, if you don't know what to do immediately, the person can go.
True Vision sought to know if we are all at risk.
Sometimes people have some underlying heart conditions that is not known to the general public. Not everybody that has an underlying cardiac issue dies suddenly. But there are certain electrical problems that are embedded in our genes, and they lead to certain mutations in certain proteins that control certain activities in the heart. And some of those things can lead to death while you are sleeping. It can lead to death when you are exposed to certain emotional environments, of course, such as watching a highly charged football game, sports. You know about the most celebrated in our country, Samuel Kwaraji, who in 1989 was playing for Nigeria against Angola and died. That's a structural kind of heart disease we call hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, in which the heart muscle is overtly thickened and causes obstruction to blood flow during activity, and you can die. People can die in their sleep when they have certain mutations also in their DNA, and they die and they just don't wake up. But also, I think what is relevant in what our discussion is that, yes, certain people were exposed to a highly emotionally charged environment, such as the game may have called for. But what I'm saying is that there are certain conditions for me as a practitioner and somebody in this field that things we call long acute syndromes. There are syndromes that exist in an individual and remain latent. They need a trigger to bring it up to the surface where they could cause you are describing. There are times when somebody hears a loud noise, they pass out. There are times, sometimes after a woman has delivered a baby and they hear a loud noise, they pass out. They may or may not survive. There are times when somebody is swimming and has just engaged in exercise, they pass out and they're dead. It's what we call long QT syndrome, which is due to abnormality in the way certain ions are expressed in the heart. So these things are not uncommon. They are real and they do happen once in a while. Unfortunately, they happened.
For those that have underlying heart condition, you have hypertension, you suffer stroke in the past, and or you are diabetic for a long time, which could have had its own effect on your kidney and the heart, you've got to be moderate in your excitement and anxiety when you are watching the match. Preferably, don't watch alone. Watch in the midst of people who understand your health condition. I will not say don't watch, but if you think you cannot bear it, please, you may excuse yourself.
We did not stop at the experts. We got the opinions of other Nigerians.
And for the death rules that just happened, it's a sad thing to hear. And I just watched the Nigerian team doing a minute silent for people that lost their life. The tension there, seriously, the last match, the tension there. You can also testify that the tension was so hard and hot at the pitch there. So some people might have some cardiac attack, some heart disease that else attack them because of the pressure there. So that lead to death. But I'll advise for people who are having such situation or sick, they should not take the football to heart. Nigerian team are trying, yes, we know. So don't take football to heart, that will lead to your death.
Okay, my name is Yusuf, and football is so passionate that not a lot of people are just seeing what football really means now because of the fact that Nigeria, the one playing, they are seeing what football like. Football is unpredictable. Even for Sunday results now, we are expecting the worst. Like as you can see now, I'm a full Nigerian fan, but all we need to do is just don't get too attached to it. Don't put your feelings to it. Don't do anything. It's just a sport, man. It's not a do or die.
We also have to be very, very concerned about our life as well. Now, the truth of the story is that when the match started, I can equally put myself as in that position. We are hoping that the game is over, but eventually, we only discovered that in almost 90 minutes they have a penalty against us, and eventually they score. So it's like our hope is battered.
With the AFCON finals coming up on Sunday, what do we do? Not watch the match? Not exactly. But Achilihu and Shoritere say we should watch and enjoy the match, but with caution, particularly for people with what they describe as pre-existing conditions. If you suffer from high blood pressure or diabetes, if you have had a heart attack previously, if there is a history of either heart attack or sudden death in your family, then you could be at risk.
We need to be in constant touch with people who have been well trained in this field. This is not a field for every kind of doctor. So if you feel anything unusual, palpitations, easy fatigue, chest pain, or you have a set of factors that can cause cardiovascular issues for you, and I mean things like diabetes, high blood pressure, you smoke, you're obese, we have heart failure, or somebody in your family, or you smoke, or somebody in your family has died suddenly, your risk is elevated. So you probably need to consult your doctor to make sure that you are properly screened to determine your level of risk before you can expose yourself to an emotion.
But don't exert yourself unnecessarily. Don't exert yourself.
Don't be too drunk.
Yeah. And have this belief that it is just a game. It's going to end one way or the other. Once you suit your psyche, you are not likely to be shocked by the outcome.
Listen again to the experts. Sadly, the recent deaths were not the first of such experience in Nigeria. On 6th July 1991, one of Nigeria's greatest midfielders, Muda Lawal, slumped and died in his Ibadan home. 2 years earlier, another talented midfielder, Sam Okoraji, had slumped and died during a match at the National Stadium, Surulere, Lagos. We at True Vision Online Television commiserate with the families that lost their loved ones in the heat of passion. Thankfully, football is one factor that unites Nigerians irrespective of tribe, creed, gender, or age. So, we expect that in their grief, the bereaved families will not be abandoned to walk alone. The Super Eagles have already set the tune by observing a minute's silence for our lost compatriots. It is hoped that, as pledged by the players, these valiant ambassadors of Nigeria will go out all the way and win the trophy, particularly because of the country's fallen compatriots. And as they do so, their fans, super patriotic Nigerians, watch with emotional balance, even dance a bit like Governor Adeleke of Osun State. But whatever you do, stay alive. Good luck, Super Eagles. Good luck, Nigeria. From True Vision Online Television, democratizing the media space. Follow, like, share, and subscribe.